What is going on, guys and girls? It's GhostRobo, and welcome to another epic Q&A where your questions turn into my answers. Although one of these days we should do the reverse, where my questions become your answers. For now, though, we've got some straight from Twitter, hashtag AskAGhost, and the first one comes from the Blue Bull, and he says, Ghost, why isn't Kobi in any of your recent videos? If some of you may know who he's talking about, it's Kobi, my dog, my miniature poodle who is 14 years old. She does not walk with a cane or a limp. She's perfectly crazy, and part of the reason she hasn't been in any videos is because she's super crazy and she's very loud. She has a tendency to bark exactly when I don't want her to, so sometimes I've shipped her off to my mom's house and said, please keep this crazy monster away from me. I'm trying to record, I'm trying to do things that require a little bit of calm. It's always weird. Today I had a guy mowing the lawn outside my apartment building, and I was like, please stop. I had to sit on the pause screen of Sunset Overdrive for like 5 minutes as he went, whoa, whoa, like going back and forth. It's like, it's driving me absolutely crazy. So usually Kobi drives me crazy. She's a pretty sweet dog, but she's very, very attention heavy. Like, she wants you to focus on her all the time. In fact, she will bark specifically because you're not paying attention to her. If I walk out into the living room, she'll stop and be quiet and be wagging her tail, and she just wants constant love. She's like a second girlfriend that I have to attend to, except this one's 97 big dog years old. KaiHam95 comes in with the next bad boy, and he asks, how many times have you fallen asleep playing video games? I don't know that I've ever fallen asleep playing video games, but I will transform this question into how many times have I fallen asleep watching movies, which is way too many. I went through this stretch, especially towards my later years of high school and my first couple of years out of high school, where I was falling asleep almost constantly in movies. I can just rattle off plenty of ones at home and at theaters that I was just dozing in. It wasn't like I'd fall asleep for the entire thing. It's like I'd fall asleep for 15, 20 minutes and wake up. And most recently it happened with X-Men, the one about the mutants, the new one, whatever that's called, X-Men, the sequel to First Class. What is it? Dumb and Dangerous? What's the name of the new X-Men movie? I didn't really like it that much, maybe because I fell asleep, but just like you wake up and you're like, what world am I in? Where am I? What's going on? And sometimes it doesn't even feel like I missed a beat. That's what happened in X-Men. I legit fell asleep. I woke up and I was like, that movie was so short. What happened? And then I talked to my family about it afterwards, and they're like, what about the scene with Quicksilver? And I was like, what? Huh? And I didn't even ring a bell because I totally just missed it and woke up and felt like I was right in the swing of things. You're in a dark environment, it's calm and quiet, hopefully you're comfortable sitting next to somebody you like, and so you fall asleep and it doesn't feel like much went wrong, and that's been a sad thing for me, because I'm like, dang it, I want to see the movie, but I hate repeating things, and especially if the person I'm seeing it with already obviously saw it, and I'm like, let's watch it again. No. Okay, fine. And I just don't see it again. So games, not really. It would be tough for me to fall asleep playing games. I'd have to be doing some like mega marathon session at all hours of the night. I have fallen asleep editing. That has happened to me for sure. Editing, making thumbnails, and just dozed off. But actual gameplay, not so much. Movies, way too many to even count. A longtime big fan, Michael E. Brown, asks a very, very critical question that a lot of people asked, which is, Ghost, how did you and Alexa meet? Alexa is my girlfriend. You may have seen her in a blind box or taste test in a theater near you sometime in the last week or so, but we met in kind of a weird way. This is almost like too special and spooky for television, but it was a movie-like magical moment where I was very bored/sad in Florida, and I went onto Twitter and I was looking at my followers like I occasionally do, and Alexa was my most recent follower, and so I clicked on her profile. I was like, wow, that girl is really pretty, and I was just like in a like, screw it, whatever happens, happens type mood, so I just messaged her on Twitter like, hey, and I did not mention like, oh my god, you're so gorgeous, like, come and marry me. I was just asking her about like, did she follow me on YouTube? Did she, she mentioned in her profile she coached soccer, so I asked her about that. I tried to get some of the like, you look so magical questions in there, and it was just sort of like a dumb luck thing. Had I looked at Twitter 15 minutes later, had she followed me an hour earlier, I probably would have no idea who this girl in the world is, or that she even existed or watched my channel or anything like that. But it all kind of came together in a perfectly magical fashion, and then it sort of just really worked wonderfully from there. We talked till 5 a.m. the first night. I called her a couple days later, and within a couple weeks we were talking about meeting up, and then I drove to New York. I picked her up, I met her family, I brought her back here to GhostRobo headquarters, and before you know it, she is now my wonderful girlfriend. And it was like a really sort of like very 2014 type meeting, which is kind of silly, but in the same way it was really special because of the sort of random chance. It was one of those like dumb moments in some old movie where like some romantic comedy where they like bump into each other backwards in New York and they're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, and then they're like, ah, and then they call each other and then they go and then and you know where it goes from there. So we'll see where ours goes from there, but it was a pretty cool start. That nerdy kid 27 wants to know something super important to the survival of all of us. Ghost, do you prefer zombies or vampires? And I don't know if he means prefer, like, do I like them, like, befriend them, or prefer, like, which would I rather come and attack me, or prefer, like, which do I think is cooler? So I'm just going to go with the third option, which is that I prefer neither, because I think both are really overdone. And maybe that makes some of you sad, but honestly, zombies and vampires, I mean, vampires is overdone in, like, literature and film, and then zombies are like way overdone in games and other things. So it's like time for something new, and I don't mean like werewolves or midgets or robots, but we need some new kind of like enemy, and not terrorists. Think of something creative and new, and it's really hard when so many games are shooting based. Like, what do you shoot? You can shoot people, you can shoot creatures, you can shoot animals. What else could you shoot? Aliens, I guess. And maybe it's more of a statement that, hey, you should move away from shooting things in games and find different ways to interact with the environment and other characters and make challenges that aren't just, you know, point the trigger and obliterate your enemies. But what else can we do to be skill-based gameplay, fun mechanical gameplay that doesn't involve guns? And that's sort of a question that I don't have an answer to, but I hope that somebody in a position of power, by that I mean like a big publisher, will try to take on in the next couple of years, not just indie studios, but someone with a lot of clout. It's something that I feel like maybe Ken Levine and Irrational would have done, or even Naughty Dog might attempt to do, but at this juncture, game development costs so much, I don't know if they can really afford to go all in on a project that has the potential to possibly flop. But it's an interesting thing to think about. All in all, those zombies over vampires, because when I think of vampires, I think of Dracula and I think of Twilight, and neither of those things are really appealing to me. So at least zombies, you've got like Left 4 Dead or like Black Ops or stuff like that. So zombies, I guess, but pretty much none of them. J Street 76 wants to know, Ghost, what do you think about those Xbox bundles that come with digital copies of games versus hard copies, and which do you prefer? And this question can kind of be expanded into digital versus hard copy, but I think it's more interesting now because of my storage situation. Since I talked about this last, I have upgraded my PlayStation 4 hard drive, and I've also been downloading a lot more Wii U games, and it becomes very apparent that minimal storage space sort of destroys the desire to have digital copies. With my PS4, I have so much space that I would love bundles that have digital copies. And in fact, I've double dipped on games just to have that digital copy. When I was really playing Destiny a lot, I wanted it digitally, so it was constantly stored on my system. It seems like a silly thing, but the convenience of having an entire catalog on your console, as we use all sorts of lovely alliteration here, is really, really beautiful. And putting those discs in, while easy enough, is kind of annoying. At the same time, when I run into instances on my Wii U or even my Xbox One, where I'm constantly having to delete and replace things and manage the storage space, like, dude, I just want the disc. I can just pop it in and it's no big deal. Like today I found myself frustrated that my copy of Wind Waker HD is on my Wii U and not a disc, because do I want to be playing it right now? No. Do I want to delete it though and have to re-download those few gigs? No. And so I'm left in sort of a sticky situation. It's also just pure, a numbers game. The Wii U has 32 gigs of storage. Well, the copy of Bayonetta 2 that I downloaded today was 17 and a half, and that, or 15 or so, right around there, it needed 17 and a half gigs of storage space, and like that's half the system. And that's really hard when you want to play more than one game on there. So I think my ultimate preference is digital. I think including them, here's the real sort of crux of that question. If you get a physical copy, you can trade it in or you can resell it, and that makes it a much more meaningful bundle, I think. If you get the digital, the reason it feels like a cheaper sort of shady thing is because then you cannot do that. You could sell the code, I suppose, on eBay or something like that, but most likely you try the game out and then you're stuck with it, and sort of that secondary market is eliminated with those digital copies. To me, though, still the convenience of everything right up there on your screen is much more beneficial. I just need these consoles to up their ante and give me the space required for all these good games. Arlene Muliawan asks, Ghost, what is your favorite Pokemon and why? And I was thinking about this a lot, like, who is my favorite Pokemon? I was a huge Pokemon fan. I was right in the prime, like, pocket of the demographic to be hit by the Pokemon craze. When it sort of really went bonkers, I was in 4th and 5th grade, like, that's perfect time. You got the Game Boy Color, you got the cards, you got the TV show. I was all in. The Burger King toys, everything, I was all Pokemon. I loved it. T-shirts, you name it. So I thought like thoroughly about this, and it's like it has to be from the original 150. So I'm thinking Charizard, I'm thinking Charizard probably is my favorite Pokemon. But then I thought, actually, my favorite Pokemon is Ash, because he gets the Pokemon, and there's nothing better than actually having a Pokemon. And ultimately, when I remember playing the games and having the cards, I really wanted to be Ash more than anything else, because he got to have a Pokemon, and I pretty much wouldn't care which I had unless it was like Metapod or Magikarp or Goldeen. Then I would be really depressed. But if it was not any of those, then I'd be like really stoked to have a Pokemon. Give me that Pokeball, give me that creature. We don't even have to battle, we'll just go swing on the swings and eat popcorn and high five and look at the sunset like Pikachu and Ash always did. But yeah, definitely if I could be any Pokemon or my favorite thing or whatever, it's definitely Ash. Like, even though he's a goofball and a 10-year-old wandering the country with a really irresponsible mother, he's still my go-to guy. MTNDCB brings things back to the YouTube side of the questionnaire and says, were you always so fluid and confident in your videos, or did you have to progress to get to that certain point? Well, I definitely did take time to get to where I'm at today. You can go back and watch my original videos. It's the Medal of Honor game slice, and you can hear me awkwardly talk over cutscenes and use a voice that I don't even know how I had at that point. And it was bad news. My first vlog is also incredibly awkward. Like, it's like GhostRobo's 2011 plan or something. Feel free to go look at those. You're able to do that on YouTube. Thankfully, it stores this history, and what's nice about that is you can see your own improvement and sort of realize where you made major steps. But yeah, it definitely took me time, and I think a lot of it's just practice. For me, it wasn't so much like, hey, my audience likes this, my audience doesn't like that. It was just me getting comfortable with the microphone and camera and feeling like I could be myself while knowing I was being recorded. So I'd say it took me about 6 months to get to a point where I was pretty cool with my stuff, and then I'd say it probably took me 2 years to sort of get to where I wanted to be, and that has kind of just continued to progress a little bit, up to where we are now. And I even go back and watch my videos from last year, and I notice improvement in myself, and I'm more happy with where I'm at. And this is my 4th year of doing it, so it's a lot of time. That's well over 1,000 days of doing this, and most of those days I recorded videos, and many of those days more than one. So you look on YouTube and see I've got nearly 5,000 videos, and it's like, that's a lot of practice. And I still have to do multiple takes. I still do, sometimes 5 different intros to see which one I like best. And so I hope that I'll continue to just improve and improve. But yeah, it definitely takes time. Don't pressure yourself. You're just starting out. Give yourself that space to sort of get comfortable, get adjusted, and realize your best work is almost always yet to come. The last question of the day is another good gaming one, and it comes from Obscene Ratchet, who wants to know, Ghost, if you could only play one game for the rest of your life, what would it be? And this is a really difficult question, because I instantly go to something multiplayer, but then I think, is this sort of like a Lost on an Island question where you would not have other people to play with? If I do have people, it's definitely got to be something multiplayer, so infinitely replayable, like NBA 2K or Smash Brothers, or probably Mario Kart, to be honest with you right now. Single player wise though, I don't know, like I don't really replay games that often. Perhaps something that had both a single player and multiplayer component, but yet there's no real awesome campaign that I love that has a really great multiplayer as well, except The Last of Us. I really like the multiplayer, so it could be The Last of Us, but replaying that might get on my nerves, so it's like a close tie between Mario Kart and Last of Us right now, or maybe some game that is yet to be released. I still feel like I'm awaiting my perfect, true 10 out of 10, like Bioshock Infinite, Last of Us, Half-Life 2, Portal 2. A lot of these games have come really close for me, but I still kind of feel like I'm holding out like a quarter of a point for that magical game. Evolve could be like a really great one too, with its infinitely replayable multiplayer and sort of hopefully awesome community. That could be a grand choice as well. But yeah, it's either like a Mario Kart, a Last of Us, or something that is still off in the future. What else is in the future is another Q&A. So make sure you follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/GhostRobo. Thanks to those of you who asked this time, and kudos to those of you with the great questions that got featured. I will be doing this again soon, and I hope to see you guys there. Until that time, though, thanks so much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed these videos and want more of them. Until next time, drink some hot chocolate, and we will see you all later.